Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. And for today's video I will be showing you how to make your own spaghetti webbing for your uh, Marvel Legends scale 6-inch figures, 1/12 scale action figures for your Spider-Man. And I'm gonna be showing you two different methods. Well, I mean, it's the same method, but different applications depending on the size that you are going for. So on the left of the screen, this is a KO of the Mafex Spider-Man that came out a couple years ago, and on the right is the Black Suit Marvel Legends Spider-Man. So if you can't tell from the webbing that I gave these guys, there are different sizes to them, and I'm gonna explain. So on the red and blue Spider-Man, I used a very thin wire, which is close to this that I recently got. So this is green enameled floral wire, 24 gauge. It's about the same size as this, probably maybe a little thicker, but I don't have any more wire that I used for this one, but it's pretty much the same size. And then on this guy I used another type of floral wire that's a little more thicker. This didn't come with any size, I just bought it in a pack, so I'm not sure exactly how big it is, but as you can see, you can compare the sizes here. It's almost twice the size. Oh, the camera may not focus, but the green wire is about half the size as this floral wire. This floral wire has like a cloth covering over it, and as previously stated, this one has an enamel coat over it. But basically the method to get the design for the webbing is basically the same, but on the thicker wire I do it a little bit different. So I'm gonna show you quickly both methods, and I'll show you the results. So just I'm gonna put these guys out to the side. So we're gonna start off with the oh, there he goes. We're gonna start off with the white floral wire, which is the little thicker one. So I'm gonna bring in quickly the Spider-Man, just so you can see how it attaches up onto his wrist. Right, you detach the hand and it wraps around the wrist, and then once you put the hand into the forearm, the pressure is going to keep it in place. Now on this one, and I'm going to show you again in the demo, this once I finished doing the webbing and everything, I gave it a coat of glue, just regular white school glue that you may have. Since this is cloth, it's going to once you start twisting and turning and everything, the cloth may start to tear. So to protect it, I gave it a simple coat of glue. Right. So let's start here. So we got this wire here. Let's see. It's gonna be pretty. I think it's gonna serve us for this demo. So I'm gonna cut it. Give me 1 second here off camera. So I'm just gonna make one loop. All right. I'm gonna make one loop, and then just cut the wire here. Okay. And then let's try and straighten out the wire a little bit. Okay. And this is a pretty good length of wire. Okay. So you can cut it, any length you want, depending on what type of situation you want to give your Spider-Man figures, right? So I'm gonna bring in my favorite pointing tool that you almost see in every video. So what I'm going to do here, since this is thicker wire, I use as what I call the core of the web. If you can see, there's only one solid strand going across the entire webbing, right? It's one long strand in the middle. The reason why I only use one strand, since it's a thicker wire, if other applications like the other one that I'm going to show you with the thinner wire, if I use a double core, it's going to be too thick and it's going to look too big on your 6-inch action figures. Okay, so I only use a single strand, right? And then I'm going to loop it somewhere around the middle. Okay, right about here. And then you can go pretty much random with the way you want to design your webbing, right? If you've ever, just look at any comic book from basically the 90s on, anything that, with McFarlane afterwards, they've all drawn the spider webbing pretty much the same. So it has like a tight loop and then a loose loop around, and then it gets tight again, and then it's looser, and you can go pretty much any way you want to do with your design for your webbing, right? So this loop is what's gonna go into the wrist, right between the wrist and the hand. So you tighten this up, and then you just start making your loops across the single strand, right? So I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3 across, and then I'm gonna make a loose one, right? Maybe stretch it out a little bit, and then go 1, 2 loops, and then go a little more looser and tighter, and go twice in the same direction like this, and then 3 tight loops. Again, it doesn't really matter how you do it, because you're gonna it's all personal, right? There's no set method to doing the webbing here. So we're gonna keep going. I'm gonna loop it around here. 1, 2. Go on this side here. You can let go of this here. And then 1, and then 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we got this going right now, right? All right, and then with the other part of the wire that you cut, again, you can use the same length or go shorter. All right, let's just cut it a little bit longer. And then what I'm gonna do, let me stretch it out again. Try and get it straight. Okay. Now the thing about thicker wire, it's gonna straighten out easier. If you use thinner wire, once you start adding kinks, it's gonna get a little bit harder, but still manageable. So from here, what I'm gonna do is start this. I'm not gonna loop into the wrist because it's already thick as it is with just one single wire. So I'm gonna start my loop, or I'm start hook it into what was already this portion of the knot right here by the wrist. Okay, so I'm gonna thread it through the loop. It doesn't have to be neat the first time. We can use pliers later, right, to tighten it up. Because the thing is, you don't want this part to be too thick, because otherwise when you put it on your figure, it's gonna look a little odd having the wrist, if it doesn't, the wrist doesn't lock in tight into the forearm, then you're liable to your hand keep falling off. Okay, so then we can start doing the loops again, right, however you want them. Now I can go single here, I can go double here. All right, I can go a little tighter here. Put this down here. This is going over. And then we can go crazy and thread them in between. You know, it's up to you really how you want to go and approach the your webbing. The key is just to be random, right? So now you have this, you know, quick spaghetti webbing, right? This is a little more looser than on this one. I made it a little more tighter, but it's still pretty rigid and flexible. And the advantage, the reason why I go single with a single core for the thicker wire also, because it looks like once the web has been shot through, it's gonna get you know, the tip of the webbing is gonna be still gonna be forming as Spider-Man is shooting it. That's the idea, right? The webbing is forming around as he's shooting it across. So the first main strand is still extending as the rest of the webbing is forming around it. So that's the basic idea behind the approach of why I do this approach here, right? And then we can pop off the wrist, and we can see how much room we have here at the wrist to tighten it up. So we can just get my tool here, give it a few twists. Okay. And then we have a little tiny hole, which should be enough to accommodate the pegs on the wrist. And we're ready to thread it on. Now obviously this Spider-Man shoots his webs. The black suit Spider-Man shot his webs from the top of from the top of his wrist, but that was with the symbiote, when the suit was a symbiote. But when it was just a regular black suit, he still shot his webs from underneath his wrist. So we can have something like this going on, right? There we go. Now, again, this is the disadvantage of having a thicker wire. Since it's not gonna be the tightest of secure here on the wrist, right? So it's not gonna be the best of locking and keeping it in place. It's gonna be looping around. So that's why I then have this other one. Okay. With a much thinner wire, and as you can see here, you can barely even see it where it's coming out from the wrist. Right? It almost looks like it is coming out from his wrist. So now as you can see, this is white. I had to paint this with white spray paint. I couldn't find white wire. I used that from a project trying to make a lasso for a Wonder Woman. So I had gold wire. So I painted that white, but I recently went to the Home Depot, and I found this wire, which is green. So if I'm going to make more spider webs, I can just paint these white. So we're gonna get us some wire here. And, let's see. Okay. Cut it. Okay. And now for the thinner wire. On the thinner wire, I use again a quote-unquote double core, right? Instead of using one single strand going down the middle, I'm gonna use two just to make it a little more solid. But again, I'm gonna end with one part of a single wire sticking out at the end. So instead of just doing this at even, I'm gonna pull it back a little bit. And then, where's the, okay. So I'm gonna start wrapping around the entire length of the wire. Okay, so I'm gonna tighten it up. Okay. Again, you can go as tight or as loose as you want. It doesn't really matter. It's your design. You can do with it and go with it however you want. This is just like a basis, for how to achieve, right, the wire. I'm sorry, the webbing. It's not the only way, right? But it's the general idea. Okay. So we're gonna end it here. I can cut it off here. So I'm gonna cut it off here, and gonna cut it off here. Okay. So now you have your main core of the spider webbing. Okay. And again, this is the loop that's going to wrap around the wrist peg. And we're going to take more wire, and we're going to start doing the loop-de-loos, what gives it the spaghetti webbing look. Alright, so let me just cut more wire here. Okay. And again, I'm going to start threading from not into the loop that goes into the wrist, but in front of it. So if you leave, there's a small space that you can hook it into at the beginning. You know, almost like threading a needle. You know. I'm doing this off camera because it's better to look at. Sorry. I'm gonna have to open it up a little bit. Okay, hopefully I'm able to thread it through. If I was diffusing a bomb, I would not be that great. Having a hard time threading this through. There we go. So now I was able to thread it through in between one of the loops and just make a hook. And we can start doing the loops. All right, so again, same approach. You can start, you can do it however, which way you want. We can go big, we can go small, we can go tight. I like this better, the smaller wire. It just looks better on the 6-inch figures. It scales better. But again, if you can find only the larger wire, that's also good. That's fine. Just use the approach that I did, or I recommend using the approach that I did, or just using a single wire for the long strand that goes across everything. Just so it doesn't look too out of scale with the figure. But I'm going to tell you an application. I'm going to show you an application for that larger scaled wire in just 1 second. Okay. And then one of the options, in case you saw it here on this one, I gave it like a tip. At the end, like a swab of, right there, you see? Like a swab of webbing was still forming at the tip. So you can do that, or just end it, you know, like my previous one, where it's still extending, the core is still extending through as the rest of the webbing is forming behind it. Right? And still bendy, it's still flexible. You can do, you know, any crazy type of webbing you want. You can even loop this, you know. Alright, you can do this sort of thing as it's shooting out from the action figure. So you can get creative with the way you do your webbing, but basically this is the basic approach. So let's put this on black suit Spider-Man. I just need to tighten this loop a little bit. Okay. Let's put it on his wrist. Okay. And tighten it up. And there you go. Now you have your Spider-Man shooting out his webbing. All right. Then again, like I mentioned, you can, if you can't find white wire, you can get any colored wire. Just grab some spray paint. Make sure that it's enamel spray paint, because it's gonna add a special coating to the wire. And I would also suggest that once you paint it, if you're gonna paint the wire, if you're not gonna paint it and you find white wire, that's cool. But I would suggest one thing. Now, since this is pretty thin wire, the chances of it probably ruining the peg on the wrist of the figure, ruining it in the sense that if you keep, if it's tight and you keep twisting around, it's possible that the wire may start to eat down at the plastic of the peg, right? So what I did on this one is I just pretty much did what I did with this and added white glue to the coating, to coat the loop that goes into the wrist, just as added protection from the wire to protect the wrist peg, right? So that the wire doesn't start eating at the peg and ruining the figure, right? So it's just a precaution on my end. I just think it's better to be safer than sorry, right? Probably not necessary if you're not gonna move the figure or loosen up the webbing a lot and anything. It's probably not gonna damage the figure, but uh, I recommend doing the extra step. It's not gonna add anything except for protection at the end. Once the white glue dries up, it's soft enough that it's not going, that once you tighten the wrist, it's gonna add a protective seal, around the wrist peg, so it's not gonna damage anything. All right. So yeah, it's just a matter of getting creative with your webbing and how you wanna do it on your figures. All right. And again, you can go as long or as short as you want. You can just use your creativity. Now, as I was mentioning earlier, for the thicker wire, if you want to use the thicker wire and have it look in scale, well, one of the suggestions is get a bigger figure. So this is also a KO that I got when I bought the KO of the Mafex. This is a 12-inch version of the so-called McFarlane Spider-Man. It's a little loose, but I bought it as a project mainly. All right, get the camera here. I bought it as a project mainly because, as you can see, there's a lot of paint wear on it. I mean, I wasn't expecting that sort of paint wear. There's not even paint here, right? But yeah, I'm gonna redo this guy, give him the maybe another type of blue, finish off all of the black webbings on the suit, and yeah, just make them a little bit better. But the bigger wire on this guy looks practically in scale, right? I would have to undo the loop here because this is different because this wrist doesn't unpeg. You just have to put it over the, his wrist. So I would have to make a bigger loop. It will be something like this, right? I'll just do like a quick knot to start off. And then you can start working on doing the webbing, right? You can start from here. And on this scale figure, the webbing doesn't look so out of place as far as size. I bought this guy not actually knowing it was gonna be a 12-inch figure. I thought maybe just the listing was wrong. I bought it off of AliExpress, and when I saw it, I thought, oh, it's a McFarlane Spider-Man, even though it's a KO. And I know there was KOs circling, but I thought I found one, but I did, but in a 12-inch size. And I actually found out later that they actually didn't make this figure. Toy Biz did release this. I'm not sure exactly the name of the line, but they made this and the and a Venom. But yeah, this is a pretty cool figure. It's a little floppy, so I'm gonna have to do some fixing of the joints on this guy. But yeah, so there you go. That's the tutorial to get your McFarlane style spaghetti webbing. Just again, these are just, it's a general way of doing it. There is no right or wrong way, because again, you're just doing your designs basically. So there is no set way to do it. Go crazy with your webbing designs, and I'm sure it's gonna look cool on your Spider-Man action figures. And yeah, so that's about it for this video. Thank you for watching.